Oh, I need to turn this around. Here we go. Where are you? And 1, 2, 3. I think you're gonna have to put your chair a little bit behind mine. Okay. Hi, everybody. We are so apologetic. We are, 30 minutes, hour late. But I have to tell you, it's been a long weekend, and we went to sleep. That's exactly what happened. We went to sleep. But I said, better late than never. So, thank you all for tuning in. Please hit your share button because we want to talk real talk. All righty now, let's go. All right, we want to talk about relationship. And, last week we talked a lot about, what did we talk about last week?
We talked about a lot of different things, actually. Talked about relationship. You mentioned about, people being single. Kind of people ask us about our likes and dislikes. And, we kind of put ourselves out there last week. But this time, I guess it's the same thing. We'll just continue to keep referring to our experiences and help you guys from that perspective. So, yeah, we didn't touch much on finances. Really, I don't think we addressed finances at all.
I don't think we addressed finances at all. Okay, there we go. What happened? Okay, so let's talk finances, which is a big thing with couples. It is a big thing with singles. It's a big thing with people, period. Right, babe? Okay, so if I want to talk about finances, and if you have questions, please type them. But remember to hit your share button. So I think I'm going to start off, which is the greater topic, so it may take more time, and your questions may come in. Hello, Nia. Thank you for getting everything situated. I fell asleep. I was so tired. My husband was asleep, so we fell asleep. But no more apologies about that. Let's get down to it. Okay. Finances in a relationship. Everybody thinks that the man should carry the money. Okay? And there are times that my husband carries the money. There are times that I carry the money. But we both are financial managers of money. Now, I want to make that very clear. If you are not a financial person and you want to talk about, he's a man and he got to carry the money and he spend up all the money, that's an issue. And it doesn't make sense. Because by the time we get a certain age, there should be something being done to save money. And if money is an issue, we need to get to the root of why we don't have money. Why is it that we're spending every penny we get and there is no savings, knowing that things are the way that they are? Okay. Hi, Mama Hosey. Okay. Money can destroy a relationship. And one of the things I know for me, I'm always thinking ahead, being proactive. I do not spend every dollar and every dime that I get. And I think that's unacceptable in a relationship. And I definitely think it's unacceptable for the woman to spend. It's also, let me say this. He cannot do any more than you allow him to do. She can do it no more than you allow her to do. So if you're going to allow them to spend money, relationship is covenant and financial. And when you catch somebody that's stealing and thieving, taking money, that's an unacceptable relationship. So it's no different than anybody else that got a problem because they can't hold on to money. We don't want to be hood rich. We really want to have, just a little something to say if I have a flat tire that I can fix it. Come on, give me an amen. Hit your share button. I'm going to let my husband talk a little bit there.
I mean, as far as finances, I think the thing that works for us best is that, like my wife was saying, is kind of being able to know each other's strength and each other's weakness. I mean, if you have a person that's more of a spender, than they are a person that saves, then you kind of have to balance that out. And the way to balance that out is that you allow the person that's more financially responsible to to take care of the finances, be it the man or be it the woman. So I don't believe that there is a male or female particular role as it pertains to finances. It's just the person that's more responsible. And if you guys are equally responsible, then you both can kind of manage the money together. But for the most part, I think it's okay to play to a person's strength as opposed to their weakness. So, if one person is good with paying bills and very consistent with keeping up with that, kind of multitasking and, watching over the minuscule things, then you allow that person to take care of that, and vice versa. At the same time, you have to give yourself room to enjoy yourself. If you're in a financial hole and, you can't, really, afford certain expenses or certain things, then I think you have to start small. But it's always good to every now and again kind of reward yourself for the good that you have done. But if you're already in a very deep negative, then the reward is every cent that you're able to accumulate. That is your reward, not necessarily going out and spending. So if you are a couple that's that you guys are just completely in the negative trying to come up, then every cent and every dime that you guys are able to save, that is your reward. If you are a couple that's not so deep into debt, then you save a little, and then once you've done good with that, maybe go out, watch a movie together, or something of that nature, maybe buy something for yourselves. That'll be your reward. But you kind of have to know and play to your strength.
Yeah. Please hit your share button as we continue to talk. And please, you can put on your screen any questions that you wanted to ask, because that was something that was asked of us to talk about, and that is finances. Do you have a savings?
Yeah.
Do you even have a savings? Is that important in your relationship? Hit your share button. Is that important in your relationship? Let me say something. When you're dating, you have to watch your mate or potential mate, whoever that is. And if they spend and go over and go through every penny, and that's not your style, then perhaps God is trying to say and give you a sign, and that's a huge red flag that says absolutely not. Hit your share button. No, that person may not be the person for me. It doesn't mean that you have to have thousands of dollars, but if you can't save 50 cents, it's a problem. And you have to work as a team to save finances and money. And you can't be a hater because your husband or your wife likes to save. I'm the type, I love zeros. I don't like ones. Some people like ones. The more zeros behind the one, the more you can feel secure in your relationship. I mean, every time you get your income tax, really, you need to go on a vacation and you don't have any money. There's something wrong with that mindset. It's a poverty mentality. You got to go buy clothes. You got to go buy shoes. And you have clothes and shoes that you don't even know that's even in your closet. Or what is my thoughts about joint and separate account? My thoughts on joint accounts is I believe that as a couple, you should have a joint account. But if you cannot save and you're going to spend all my money and all of his money, he got to have some sense and say, no, we're not going to be joint because there's not anything going to be in there. My husband and I don't have individual accounts. You got a separate account? You better ask these questions.
But in addition to having a joint account, you guys are married, and this is just my belief. It's nothing that you guys have to really, bank on and doing. But if you know that your spouse is not as responsible as they should be financially, then as opposed to having a completely separate account, because to me, when you start separating things, then you begin to sow a seed. And then that thing, in turn kind of oftentimes grows bigger. And then before you know it, it's my car and it's my this and it's my that. So I wouldn't do that. What I would do is continue to have the joint account, but then limit that person's accesses. Limit what they're able to do. Limit their liberties and their freedoms. Then you still are together. You still a joint, but yet the person who's more responsible is still in control of the finances. So as opposed to just going separate altogether, unless you're separate individuals, then I wouldn't suggest that. Work it out and make it together, as a joint effort, make it work.
Amen. Amen. You know, you can't go in, this is mine, this is mine. Then we didn't come into covenant.
Right.
But I believe that covenant is not foolish. If a person cannot save, if they sometimes people's minds have to be groomed because that's all they've done. They've been single and they don't know how to save. Or they watch their parents flow through and just go through finances, and that's not acceptable. And I think you have to come to a covenant. Woman have to submit to that thought, and the man has to stop. Don't be macho when you don't have the mindset right now. And I believe that every woman will share. That's just my mindset. Let me say that. Let me speak for myself. I will definitely share. We share. We came in sharing, but I don't believe that I should have to be broke because of that person's lack of insecurity, because there's something very insecure that if you find your reality in clothes and shoes and houses and name brand, because in this dispensation, in this era, nobody cares about your clothes. We don't even recognize that. I mean, I know I don't. Please hit your share button so we can have an awesome time tonight. Hit your share button. In a relationship, you have to stand up. And the problem is you don't want him or her to leave, so we don't stand up and say no. And we in the church, Apostle Brian. So listen, if you don't stand up, it's not about, oh, we married. No, it's about wisdom. I have to have wisdom. And my husband, do you agree, babe?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because you have to understand when you go in, you know, the Bible says the two become one. So whatever I do, whether I involve my wife or not, it affects her. Whatever she does, if it involves me or not, affects me. So the two become one. So you can't, you know, you have to be 100 with each other, you know. So again, if that person is a strength and they're stronger, then allow them to do it. It ain't about who's being man, who's being woman, who makes the most. At that point, it's about what's best for the house as a whole. It's what's best for us, not what's best for you or what's best for me. And you have to always continue to keep that in the forefront of your mind, is that you guys are working toward a goal together. It's not an individual goal trying to make it work. It's working toward the same goal together. And again, you know, when you keep that in mind, then you're not seeing it as just, I'm doing this for me. Yeah. No, I'm doing this for us. And I'm taking this away from you, not for you, but for us. Again, it's not just that individual, but, you know, the two become one. So, yeah.
Two become one. Am I a good saver?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
And
I've definitely saved, you know. That's one thing about us that we really have in common, is really being able to save. I'm not really a spender. There's many times, and I say this, you know, with the heart of just, you know, how I feel for my wife, but there's many times that I may get for self, and it's just, you know, I enjoy doing for her. And not that she doesn't do for me, but it's just we have that in common, that we enjoy saving. You know, we're not really big and have to always spend. At the same time, you know, we're very big givers, which is kind of different. You know, I'm not used to being with somebody that's equally as big as I am in giving. I enjoy giving things away. Sometimes probably too much to a fault. We both are guilty of that. But I think we both balance each other out as far as that is concerned. We're not really big spenders. You know, we keep each other balanced when, you know, we tend to may get on the edge of getting out of control. But for the most part, we stay balanced. So,
yeah. Hit your share button, please. And remember that you can ask questions at any given time. Mm-hmm. What was one of the questions that somebody asked? And we'll come back to finances if you write something. Let me talk to single people. Single people, you're always talking about you want to get married. Okay? No one wants to marry a broke man and a broke woman. Okay? Well, I see his potential. I see her potential. She a good person. But at the end of the day, if you can't save your own money, I believe that you should go into a relationship with some money. You don't have to be rich, but don't be waiting on a knight in shining armor to come and save you and take you out of poverty when you have a mindset of poverty, because you will bring that person into poverty. What do you think, my love?
I agree. Like my wife and I, prior to us getting together, we didn't just come to the table empty-handed. She didn't come bearing more than I had. We both came, equally hard workers in our being single, and that's what we was able to bring to the table. And it's good because it also lets you know what it is that you're about to get into. Because if you have a person that's bringing nothing to the table and you get with that individual, be it male or female, then that's what you're going to experience. You're going to experience a life of you're always getting and gaining, and they're always taking and draining. So again, you have to weigh that thing out.
You see a lot of homeless folks in relationships downtown. Well, I admire that they have somebody. There are a lot of goals that I have, but that is not to be homeless together. Because I think people are homeless together because nobody had the unction to say, I think that you're doing the most, and let's stop. Now, my husband, he will buy me in expensive things, and I'm not. And sometimes I'll be like, you don't have to do that. Please let's not buy it, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll do the same thing. So there's a season that if you save and you're wise in your savings, then you will be able to go to any store and then go and save finances. Does that make sense? But if you don't save in the meantime, you can't go anywhere and just say, let's go out to dinner, or I want to buy those Nikes, or I want to buy this and I can do it. And then so you start looking at other people's lives, and that's not cool.
I know one person said they think that you should, I think Nia said they think you should bring in pretty much equally or balance what the other person brings in. Yeah, I think you should only ask for in your partner what you bring to the table. Maybe yes and no, because that's one of those old things, those old sayings, is that you don't play your cards beforehand. And sometimes a person will get into a relationship with another person and, expose too much or say too much or do too much. And then you give the other person, all these cards for them to kind of play at their advantage and leave you at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of one of those things you really have to, you have to know who you're talking to and who you're talking with. And that, to me, determines what it is you're free enough to expose, how much you want to bring to the table, how much you want to disclose, how much you want to keep secret. Because you have some people that are really genuinely seeking a good woman, genuinely seeking a good man. And if they found you and you are that, then, I think it would help to, to kind of be open, you know what I'm saying? And to let them know what they're getting into and vice versa. You don't want anything to pop up on you at the last minute. So yeah, that's kind of one of those things that's, you just kind of have to see how that works out. But, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but could work against you too.
And hit your share button, because go into the relationship, or if it's a potential for a relationship, go into the relationship being who you are. Go into the relationship not in pretense like you have more and then you're spending more. Mm-hmm. And then when you get married, you really don't have that. You don't want to be hood rich, but you want to keep it very honest with each other. Talk about each other's credit scores. Because if you have a bad credit score and they can't talk to you about that prior to something going further, there's something wrong with that. Something very wrong with that. And especially women. Women want to get married. And that's one of the things that I'll be like, you're not stable enough to get married. So what is the purpose of your marriage? When my husband and I talked about getting married, I said, what is the goal? Because a marriage has to have a goal other than just sex and reproduction. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. Once you've had the sex and you reproduce, had 2.5 children, now what do you have? Please hit your share button. Hey, Jack and Lindsay. So I just want to say, what do you have after the sex and the 2.5 kids? Because we didn't do anything to prepare or have a mindset. And let's come into covenant prior to I do. Because once you say I do, that can make you really dislike a person. Money can make you really dislike a person. Am I making any sense? What I mean, babe?
Money and sex always tear relationships up. Always, I mean, if they're not managed right, then they'll tear a relationship up very quickly. And I'm in agreement with my wife. I think many times people jump into relationships and think it's just a compatibility and it's the love that's gonna sustain and maintain you. That's good, but that ain't it. You know what I'm saying? So, that cannot be the whole substance and the whole makeup of your relationship. There has to be some form of plan. Many relationships fail because, well, I love them, they love me, we have a lot in common, and then that's it. Well, you can only build so much off of certain things, and then reality kicks in, and then life kicks in. So it's good to have a plan. It's good to really know who you with. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a person that you plan on spending the rest of your life with. You owe it to yourself to know exactly where they stand, what their history is, what their past has been like. Do they pay bills? Do they have kids that you don't know about? Do they have kids that they don't know about? You know what I'm saying? So you need to find all this stuff out. Got to plan. And when you plan, that's how you find that information out.
That's good. That's good. Joe said, talk about that more. It's true. You have to have a mind of Joe. What do you want me to talk about? What do you want us to talk about more?
Oh, you just in agreement. Like talk about that. It's
talk about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that every man should be prepared to have a wife, and I'll let you speak to that. Why get a wife and you're not ready? What's the one money habit that each admire about the other person? That we each admire about each other. What do I admire about my husband about money is that he's not a spender. He might get him, shoes. That's his fetish, shoes, getting him some Nikes or something like that. That we can make a dollar holler. And I think that everybody should make a dollar holler. Sometimes people look at you and they think you have a lot more. But the fact of the matter is you make a dollar go a long way. Because money has to work for you instead of you working for money. And I often wonder, who are we trying to impress? My husband's not trying to impress anyone. I'm not trying to impress anyone. Well, you want to look the best, or wear something that you mix and match. I'm not saying be poverty, but I am saying have more than $100 behind you. How did you know you were ready for a wife, Pastor Nick?
Good question, Dr. Tamika. Let's see. How did I know I was ready? That's a good question. That is a good question. I think I knew I was ready for a wife when I knew that I had matured in a lot more ways. It's really not about having somebody to be there. It was how far have I come? Have I learned from my mistakes? Am I in a position? Was I in a position to appreciate this person this time around? Had I learned from the things that I've done prior to? What can I bring to the table? So I knew I was ready when I did a lot of self-checks, and I saw that where I was at the time was in a better place than where I had been. I had overcome a lot of things, and really, in that time of being by yourself, you really learn a lot about yourself. You dive into a lot of things, and praying that you're really seeking God, He'll pull you out of a lot of things. So I knew I was ready when I met her, and there wasn't it wasn't something that we were trying to do. It's kind of like we found each other. It was one of those situations to where I wasn't out looking, I wasn't out searching. I'm coming to church getting God, and she's she's the person that was preaching and delivering the message to me. It wasn't me searching, it wasn't me seeking. I mean, it was truly a God thing that happened, and it happened that way. So I pray that answered your question. I didn't expect you to say that to me, but nevertheless, yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
How do you attract money?
How do you attract money into your life? You, I believe that money is just like any other relationship. And money is a relationship. You have to have a relationship with your money. You agree, babe?
Yeah.
So you do. You have to have a relationship with your money. If you respect your money will respect you. And if all you want to do is spend money, put it away, go and give it away, or have no plan for the money, it's just like a relationship, then it doesn't stick around long. If you do right by your money, money will do right by you. That's something I read one time. That money will do right by you. Meaning, if your children are sick, money will be there for you. If you need, there's a dire need, then money will be there for you. But money is a relationship. And if the person is always pushing you away, then how do you expect them to be there when you really need them? So money is absolutely positively a relationship. Share your thoughts on being healed and whole for marriage.
Additionally, balancing marriage and ministry.
Oh, okay.
Being healed and whole for marriage.
I think you got to know your weaknesses before you can be whole, because sometimes you think you're whole. There were areas that you had already been healed in, babe. I know I had been healed in. Let me speak for myself. There are areas that we had been healed in, but there was also areas that I was not healed in that I didn't know and I didn't realize until we got deeper into the marriage. And there was residue from previous relationships. And so when there's residue from previous relationships, we have a tendency to start to strike out at the person. And I know I did. And I think we both did. Because as you with that person, it's not the goo goo gaga and you go home. It's the ins and out of everyday relationship.
Man, then you have to factor in that our prior and previous relationships, those individuals weren't necessarily as hungry for God as we are. So you have to factor those dynamics in, because when you say, how do you be healed and whole for marriage? To me, that kind of sounds like when people say, well, I'll go to church when I'm delivered from everything. And that's not the way it works. I don't think you should necessarily try to, totally build life around marriage. That your whole goal for being successful, being whole, being righteous, and all these things is for the purpose of being married. No, that's for the purpose of you being whole as an individual. Then the marriage will come. So I'm saying it to say this is that, maybe some things you're not necessarily supposed to be whole for, particularly when marriage comes along, like my wife and I. There were some things I wasn't necessarily all the way healed from, but it took me being with her, us being together. That's where the healing came from. Had I experienced that healing prior to, I would have healed the wrong way. I wouldn't have healed the right way. Then that could have caused more damage. So, it's kind of one of those things. There's not a perfect way of trying to enter into a thing. I think we're looking for the shortcut, and the shortcut is the right way, the long way, the straight way.
Yeah.
Somebody says.
How do you define being healed and whole? How do I define being healed and whole? Healed enough to, let me say this, to be healed is not just being healed for me. That's being healed enough to adjust myself for the needs of my husband. That's a whole woman. That's a whole man. It's not about being selfish. I can't keep hurting him and expect him to be okay. So please hit y'all share button, because this is really good now. We get down to the good stuff.
And I'll say, when you done?
Go ahead, babe.
I'll say in addition to being healed, define what being healed. Being healed is not making your current spouse pay for what your previous spouse did or the previous person that you were dating did. That's, to me, that's defining being healed, when you're trying to remake the past in your present. That's not being healed. Being healed is being able to take this day for what it is, this new day, and then to move forward in it. With whomever there's there, you move forward with that newness. Being made whole is being able to find happiness in the individual that you're with, in the person that you're with, and where you are, as opposed to necessarily needing things to define, what makes you whole, what makes you woman, what makes you man. So being whole is just really knowing who you are. To me, if I had to define it into one thing, being healed and being whole, that would be identity. When you know who you are, then you can be healed and be whole.
And being whole is not being selfish, because there's nothing whole about a selfish person. You have to really genuinely, the two become one.
Right.
And when the two become one, then both the parties are happy and nobody suffers. And so we are one because we are selfless and not selfish. Meaning that I want him to be okay. He wants me to be okay. It has to bother you when you hurt somebody. And it has to bother you and that you don't need to be right. The problem comes in when you need to be right and your spouse is hurting. The problem comes in when you know you're not whole, is that you can continue to hurt him and say you love him. Hurt her and say you love her. That's not wholeness.
I think we spend too much time about trying to prove ourselves right as opposed to doing what's right. You spend a lot of time trying to prove yourself right, prove your opinion, your thought is right, as opposed to doing the right thing. Doing what's right will always trump trying to prove what is right. Let your actions speak louder than words. Do you think it's wise for people who know
they're getting married to put their money together? No. We both said it at the same time. No. Because I think once you become into covenant, then you put your finances together. Right. You do not put your finances together until you have said, I do. You can have a plan and a budget, which I believe that every couple should have a plan and a budget, but don't put your money together, because no, that's a problem.
It's like going to a job and they say, we going to hire you. And you spending money you ain't made yet. No, I ain't going to spend it until I know I've signed the application and I've started day one and clocked in. So, no. Not until you stand before that altar and you really, he show up or she shows up and you say, I do. Then at that point, you guys have made an open bond before man and before God. And y'all can walk that thing out together.
How do you go about accepting that you're qualified for a relationship? Amen to the covenant finances, LOL. Okay, how do you go about accepting that you're qualified for a relationship? Let's talk relationships, ladies and gentlemen. I think everybody wants a relationship, but you got to think about your motive for wanting that relationship.
Hold it. No, hold it. Come on.
Oh, your hand hurting?
No.
Okay, we still got to get the screen for the thing, because our hands hurt after a while. Accepting. You got to know who you are. You got to be whole in the sense that I am financially okay without you. I have my own house. I own our house, apartment, or whatever. You have your own car. You live in your own life. You take care of you. And then you're qualified because Jesus Christ is the head of your life. You can't have the same mentality and think that you're qualified operating from a lower mentality. I'm qualified because I'm whole. I'm qualified because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. My husband did not make me. I did not make him. When we came together, we accentuated what was already there. And God did the work in molding it and combining it. So I think you don't have to qualify for anybody except yourself, first and foremost. Because if you disqualify yourself, you'll go in needy. And then I think that you will also drain your mate. You become a leech. And I don't want to be a leech. We are supposed to be helpers and not draining the blood. You need a man that is whole enough that you can be out of his sight for 5 minutes. And then without him thinking that you're with somebody else.
Yeah, there's and we are we are imperfect people that are always striving for perfect relationships or looking for perfect individuals. And that's, I kind of say that to go into, tie into what my wife just got through saying about qualifying. We're imperfect people looking for perfect relationships, perfect men and perfect women, and that's not going to happen. So, about that qualifying thing, like she was saying, just know that you qualify first. And then once you're at a place to where you're whole, you're healed, is then you can move into a relationship. You can't determine whether you're ready by what they do. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. You determine that by what you do. Pastor Nick, there's this myth going around that men don't like independent women. Is that true? Do men like women to have it all together financially when they start dating? The reason why men don't like independent women is because of it leaves a man not having a position or a part to play in that woman's life. So when a man meets a woman that already has it together, then it kind of defeats or depletes his role of having to play a role at all in her life. There's a role that a man has to play. He's the guy that opens the door. He's the guy that takes out the trash and things of that nature. Well, you got women in the gym. They can open their own door. They can probably lift the car. You got, you know what I'm saying? So you got different stuff going on. So I think that's why men process some of them the way they don't like it, because it takes away from them being able to be, I guess, that man, so to speak. Some women, when they are very independent and they're very driven mentally, they're focused, then there's not many things that they need a man to do per se. They're doing their own thing. They're making their own moves. They're calling their own shots. They kind of control themselves. They secure themselves. They're confident in themselves. So that tends to take away some of the roles, I guess, and I want to keep saying roles that a man should play or would play in a woman's life. You said, do men like women to have it all together financially when they start dating? Yeah, but again, it's that mental thing that plays in the mind's head, to where if I want to, they want to be the ones to be in control. Sorry about that.
Okay.
They want to be the ones to be in control. And it's just there's something about being able to do for a woman that makes a man feel like a man. So if they're in a relationship and they're knowing that they're the one that are financially supporting everything, and that makes a man feel good. But honestly, I think a real man should appreciate and would want a woman that has something to bring to the table, that I wouldn't say have it all together. I don't think no one necessarily, quote unquote, has it all together. There are people that are more responsible in life than others, and that would appear that they have it all together, but they just took better advantage of the opportunities that they had versus someone else. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but sometimes men, we be head tripping. We want a strong woman, but we want her strong in certain places that don't make us feel like we're less than. We want to be the breadwinner and all that stuff, And the fact of the matter is, times have changed, and there's a lot of things that we do that women can do. Some can do better. So it's kind of one of those things you have to adapt and keep rolling.
Am I independent?
Very much so. When I met you, yeah. When I met my wife, she, pastor, minister, in church in a way that I was nowhere near.
Business.
Very, business driven, visionary. So when I met, yes, that's probably a good place to start, because when I met my wife, that was her too. She was very, very, just very on her own, independent, did her own thing, and I would do certain things, and she didn't ever minimize it and make it seem less than. She actually appreciated it. She entertained it. So I was aware that she was in a different place than I was. She was a lot further ahead than I was, but I didn't see it as competition. I didn't take it as a situation to where it made me, kind of feel less than. I took the challenge. I'm like, okay, if she's for me and I'm for her, then surely I know I qualify. That ain't even a question. So if she's got eyes for me, knowing, what she knows of me and what I can bring to the table, then why am I tripping? I don't need to stress. I obviously got the goods, so we're gonna make it happen.
Okay, please hit your share button, guys. We want a lot of people on. There's a question on here. It says, it does answer it, but it's kind of confusing. I don't have it all together, but these Atlanta men want you to. And then when you do, they have have it together, they get mad and leave you for someone broke.
See, the thing about it is this, and I'm gonna try my best to help you. I think you may be very well missing it. Possibly. You have to, and I say this with all due respect, knowing you as a daughter in our church. I don't think you're really up on a lot of game. That being said, is that some men say things, but that's not really what's true. The truth of the matter is there may be a lot about you that they cannot handle. There's a lot about you that you're not giving up. You know what I'm saying? So because you're not playing the game that they want you to play, then we'll just kind of throw little things, to just send you off somewhere else. We'll play on your weakness to let it know, to kind of make it seem like that it's you, that you're the issue, that you're the fault, that you don't have it. So because you don't have it, we want to entertain you. When the fact of the matter is that you have a lot more about yourself going for yourself than they really know. And some men don't know how to handle that. They're not used to meeting women that respect themselves, that carry a certain standard, that know how to work with the little they got. They may not have the mansion and driving the car and living fake, but they are very happy with what they have. Men don't know how to deal with genuine women. They're so used to entertaining fake women, that women are very unhappy. So to be honest with you, I don't really think you're kind of up on game. I don't believe it's you. I wouldn't take that as a personal thing.
And men don't want to know all your business. I mean, we start to make men our therapists. Okay, there we go. We start to make them our therapists by telling them everything. Oh, we want to tell him, I want him to know everything. He doesn't need to know everything about your last relationship until you get deeper in, because you run him away by telling him everything. I know a man can run me away by telling me too much. I don't want to know all of that. Let me figure some things out. And I think when men know that when we want something so bad, you got to play hard to get. It's really true. That's why the girls that give it up and all of that overnight, they don't get the man. It doesn't care about her body, her looks, her shape. What he cares about it at the end of the day is her mind, and is she capable of being the mother of my children?
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this too, just real quick. A lot of times, don't look at it from that perspective. A lot of times, that's very well a God thing. You know what I'm saying? That's a God thing, because, okay, check this out. You have a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of single women that are in relationships, and they don't find out that this person is a dog until months later, until a year or two later, when they actually have things invested. They've let them meet their family. They've laid down with them the whole nine. And it's then at that point, they realize that, you know what, I'm not even compatible. I don't like this guy. He don't like me. So take this as a God thing. Bless God that a weekend, a few days in, they feel like that you don't have it, or whatever their excuse is, and they walk away. That's good. That's just God's way of weaning out the dogs that you don't need. So appreciate that. Don't kick against it, respect it. You know what I'm saying? Respect it, because a real man will stick around and figure you out. Won't take the time to figure out your weakness. He'll be able to move past and love you through your weakness. So appreciate that.
And one of the biggest things that we've had to, somebody asking a question, the biggest thing in our counseling, what is the biggest issue that husbands have, and what is the biggest issue that wives have? The biggest issue, I'll answer for the wives. And you answer for the husband? Or you want me to answer for the husbands? Or you want me to answer for the husband? One of the biggest issues that the husbands have with their wives is sometimes if they're strong, and at times communication. Because communication, when you're married, is often misinterpreted as nagging. And so therefore you have to go into the relationship establishing the fact that we're going to have what my husband and I call engine talks. If you're going to have a relationship, you have a car, you got to check the engine every light, because your check engine light go on. And you got to pay attention to the check engine light, because when the check engine light goes on in a relationship, it could be so much bigger. One of the things that men do not always like to communicate. And so by omission, they lie. I know that's a hard one. And vice versa, that's not just them, but by omission, because they don't like confrontation. And we can out talk them. That's one of the things that always comes up. I can't win because oftentimes their brains don't think as fast as the woman does. So by omission, the truth is not always there, and that offends the woman because all she wants is talk to me. Just talk to me. So communication on the man's part, and that's something that has to be taught, and let them know that that's not going to be held against you.
And really quick, I think with the wives, the thing that we hear the most, the biggest issue is with the wives, it's more so the husband being more attentive and more affectionate, being able to, to be more just involved. They're very, very rare. Are there women that don't necessarily need that? Very rare are there situations to where the husband or the guy is more affectionate than the woman is, but that's something that we've experienced the most. And a lot of that, and I'm not justifying it, but a lot of that is that the men don't know how to, and I don't want to say this is a cop out, but there's a lot of men that don't know how to necessarily be that way to a woman because of having so many prior relationships that were inordinate, so much affection that wasn't, healthy affection, healthy attention. For example, men that have dabbled in porn, if there's not no real deliverance that take place, then that man will be, it's very hard to get that man to do a lot of things if he's not completely and totally delivered. Reason being is because that's a relationship that has now been formed. That's another wife in a sense. So while the wife that you said I do to has an expectation and from you and of you, you're obligated to love her and to do things, yet and still this woman on the other side, which is called pornography, is steady calling and pulling. And, and more husbands than not don't share that with their wives, that they're ducking off and sneaking off and watching this. So you still have that spirit, alive and living in your marriage and your relationship. And it makes it difficult for the man to do what he knows to do. Why? Because he's inordinately giving that affection and that attention away. So when it's necessary and is needed healthily in the marriage, he can't give what he don't have. So that's one thing that we've experienced, definitely as far as the wives saying that. But, women of God, don't give up, keep praying, have to hold these men to a higher standard. And at the same time, it teaches the man how to love, not the way they want to love you, but to love you the way that you need to love and deserve to be loved. And you can't dictate and determine how that works. What you say?
Hit your share button.
Yeah, my wife said hit your share button.
He don't know what it is. Please hit your share button so we can get more people on.
Why are you asking us to wave at him? What is that?
Wave. Okay. It just comes up like that.
Okay. Your phone's
dying. No. Let's see. What else was it? What else? Okay. I've heard men say, give you everything you ask for material wise and expression of love. You guys talk about love language. Okay. That's a very good question. Material things, often for a person that is not their language, and that is most certainly not my language, right, babe?
Nope.
That is not my language. What's my love language?
Your love language is affection.
Yes, my love language is affection.
What's mine?
Your love language is gifts. And ain't it?
No.
What's your love language?
I don't have one.
Okay. Yes, it is because he likes to give gifts. So that's his language, I think. And he likes stuff in the sense of gratitude, acknowledgement. Let me say that better. You like for me to acknowledge. If he washed the car, don't walk around and act like you didn't notice that because that bothers him. Or if he cleans the house or cooks, then acknowledge that he did that. So that's true. And my love language is definitely communication because it's not sexual. People think we think that there's only two love languages. And that is sex, affection, and gifts. But it's not. You have to communicate and get inside. Take a moment to study a man. I study my husband. And at times he studies me. He's on top of things for me. So study your husband, study your mate. Don't allow things to come in. Know their love language. I'm not a flower person. I don't like flowers. So don't bring me any flowers because I'm only going to throw them away.
Yeah, she did that.
I'm going to throw them away. Not because I'm not ungrateful, but because they don't stimulate me in my mind. But if he sits in bed and hold a conversation, and affection is not sex. Affection is not sex. And here's another thing. Let's be very candid tonight. Men, if any men are on here, the language, when you say affection, it is not sex. She wants communication. And don't talk about sex when we haven't had, I'm just talking about foreplay. And the greatest foreplay in the world is communication. It's communication, just talking to her. How are you? Just come behind her, giving her a hug from behind, or just tell her, I love you, or just being easy. So sometimes that's the way to ease and gradually get into the sexual aspects of it, because, just listen to me. It's not sex. It's not penetration. That's not what it is. It is concentration. Because you got to concentrate to listen to me. And I have to concentrate to listen to you. And because life goes by so fast and we're so on the move and we got this to do and that to do, till we really don't listen to each other. And we don't even let each other finish conversations, finish sentences. Because you think you know how I feel and what I'm going to say. So many couples do not have communication.
And I also say this too. This probably might be getting way off whatever. But when you say that men they give material things and it's like I give you everything. Men process that way because you find a lot more often than not that men are like that. Men are doers. Men are. By nature we are hunters. You know what I'm saying? So we're not that the caregiver type. I'm not to say that we can't be that. What I'm saying is that as a man's makeup, manhood, that's how men are. That's how we've been from way back. We are security. We are protectors. We are providers. We go out and we do the things that most won't do. We'll do the grimy work. We'll hustle. We'll get it done just to come home and ensure that home is safe. So if that man has the mentality of, while he's out hunting, he's sniffing flowers and tiptoeing through the tulips and dancing, then he gonna get consumed and killed out there in the field. So I'm sad to say that, that's the beauty of marriage, because men and women, they both play their different roles in a relationship. If you have a man that's overly affectionate and overly loving and he just bubbly, don't get me wrong, there are probably some out there, but there's a smaller percentage that maybe a little bit more to him that he not telling you. You know what I'm saying? Because the most men I know, they just straight up, they men, so I'm not justifying it. You're absolutely right. There's a lot more work that we as men can do and have to do. But that is our language. Our language, we do. We make things happen. Most men, like my wife and I, they want to be appreciated. Let him know that you have acknowledged that he cut the yard when he ain't used to cutting the grass. Knowledge that he has taken out the trash. Yeah, it's his job, but still it doesn't take away and negate the fact that, he's still a man that needs confirmation and affirmation from the one who says she love him. So, that's how men, because some men think that that's what women like. Women like things. So, and again, some men, they process from, old things and old relationships. They process from a mentality of, what they mama like, how their mama was treated or what they saw growing up. So there's a lot of different factors that play into it, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I am saying it is, there's a lot of things to consider. So, yeah. And
a provider is not just monetarily. You got to provide her with the things she needs.
Right.
Not just money, not just a roof. I go to work, I do this, didn't I do this for you? But you didn't give me what I needed. And that's all we ask. Just give me that little need. We are not that complicated. We are not that complicated. There was a question came in. How do you balance and maintain a healthy relationship with your ministry and your business? How do we maintain a healthy relationship with our ministry and business?
Keep them separate.
Keep them separate. We had to learn that, because people think because you're the pastor and that you a ministry that you don't have a life outside of that. And you really do. And just like everybody has to work on their marriage, we have to work on our marriage. And we had to put things in proper perspective. That ministry is ministry, is God's work. But we also have a ministry to one another. And we would give so much to the church or to other people until we didn't give to one another, and there was a lack and there was a deficit, and so then we had to pull back, and then you can see it. There's a calmness that comes over the relationship, because he's not mad because I'm on the phone with all the church folks. Say amen, Pastor.
Say it again.
That I'm not on the phone with all the church folks.
You doing a lot better,
yeah. Because men don't want you on the phone all the time when they come home.
Not when folk you see 4 days a week, and having folk tell you the same thing when you see them at church, and they gotta call you when you ain't at church to talk about what they can tell you when you are at church. Okay, so she said, why do men feel like they have to control everything and get angry when things are out of their control? The reason why some men feel like they have to control things, not only because it's in their nature, but there are many times to where men control other things because they can't control themselves. So because they lack control within self, being able to maintain themselves and able to keep things in line and in position where they want to be, whether you believe it or not, there are a lot of men that have dreams, have visions, have desires, and they fail to complete those successfully. So what they do is they in return, put the pressure on everyone else in the house and make them, nervous and on edge, because they can't control themselves. There is no control within, their own lives and their own process and their own ways. So what they do is they kind of mirror that and try to control someone else's life. But what that is that's just a cry of help, saying, I'm doing this because I don't know how to control my own matters. But what I can do is try to control yours.
Could it be unresolved issues? A lot of times when we're counseling, men and women have unresolved issues, because women are equally as controlling as men. But those are unresolved issues.
Right.
You think?
Yeah, definitely. Can you describe what it should look like when a husband covers his wife? Okay, hold on. Can you see it? I just kidding. No. All right. So what does it look like when a husband should cover his wife? That looks like it looks like a man that doesn't expose everything every chance he gets. Is not always trying to prove that he's right. What does that look like? It looks like a man that is that unselfishly love his wife. To cover her is not just to protect her. To cover her is to ensure that you're not name bashing her. To cover her is to not be out there looking like you're doing something, or the appearance of something. To cover her is a lot of different ways, I can define it in many different ways. So it's not just a physical part of it, but it's financially. When she's not around, you also cover her. When you're in conversation about your wife or about your spouse, that's covering them. When you're not, speaking down on them. Do you let other people talk about them? Better yet, let me take it this way. Do you let their mama talk to you about them, or vice versa? That's when you cover your spouse. Because a lot of times, people get on the phone and their mama talk about their spouse, and you let them. No, you got to check her, check him, check that. You know what I'm saying? So I hope they help you. Okay. We got to get something.
And don't expose their weaknesses.
Yeah.
When you cover them, a husband should cover, and you never expose her as the weaker vessel.
Right.
Doesn't mean because she's strong in so many areas. Believe I'm strong in a lot of areas, but I'm still a woman. Mm-hmm. I don't care anything about a title. You know, you can call me apostle, this and that, but I'm still a woman. And when I come home, am I a woman?
You better be.
Okay. 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 So when you come home, I'm not apostle. I am Nick's wife.
Yeah, you do.
And I want to be covered.
You do be calling me pastor, right?
I do call him pastor at home.
Why should do that?
I do. I call him pastor at home.
Yeah.
So I do. I call him pastor, you know, because, you know, when we got married, he wasn't the pastor. So I call him pastor as that's my term of endearment, because when I call him pastor, that's the authority. You know, you're the authority in the house. Pastor.
What do I pray for when I pray for my wife? Can I be honest? What don't I pray for? And I say that for a reason, because when I go in, I make it a purpose to go in. You know, I'm attentive to what she's saying. So I'm praying for whatever I've heard her mention, whatever I've heard her speak about. If there's an ache, if there's a pain, if there's a concern, if there's a relationship, if there's a desire, you know, whatever things that I've heard her mention or speak about, I definitely go to God and I stand, you know, in the gap pertaining to and concerning those things. At the same time, you know, I pray for the things that I know. I pray for her heart. I pray for, you know, the things that I know that I've heard her mention. So to honestly answer that question, what don't I pray for? I don't just limit it. I kind of go all in and cover all things, because the enemy is very crafty and he's looking for a way in. So I try to ensure that I keep my wife covered. So when I get up in the morning, give God praise and thanks, the first thing I'm doing is seeking his face. And, you know, the first person I'm going to pray for is going to be my wife. So I pray for everything: family, her health, finances, you know, relationship, her mind. I pray against attacks.
Pray against my mind. Pray for.
Well, no, okay. I say that because you got folks that don't have the best for my wife or for us. People do things, you know, kind of under the table because of the relationship we have. So, you know, you have to pray. You got people who think they're a better fit for me than my wife. You know, a lot of foolish stuff not going on. So, and vice versa. So I pray. I try to pray very in-depth, deep, heartfelt, openly, and just ensure that I cover everything. What don't I pray for? That's true. So I don't limit it. I go in for my wife because I don't want to leave nothing uncovered. You know, that's just like me leaving the house and don't cut the alarm on. I ain't going to do that. So I'm going to make sure all bases are covered.
And find humor in your relationships, but do not make excuses. The reason why relationships don't last is because you have an expectation, but you enabled that. And if there are times that y'all have to get at it, we don't come on here trying to act like we don't get at it. First of all, we do. We have those hard moments when we really have to have that conversation, or this is something that we feel like we need to do. I may feel this way, he may feel that way, but you know, you've got to know that there are hard conversations that you had, and don't pretend. Don't pretend. One thing about it, we're not pretenders. No, we get at it, and then when we get through, one of the things we know is that we're gonna come back, get to God, maybe go to mutual corners, but we're gonna get back in the presence of Almighty God. And that's very important, very important. And don't let anybody make you feel that you are less than. My husband doesn't make me feel like I'm less than. Oh, you need me. I don't need him. We are a couple. Without me, he can't do it. Without, you know what I'm saying?
Don't say that.
And vice versa.
No, don't say
because
vice versa.
we a team.
I want to hear you say it like
I need you.
There you go. Without me, she can't do it.
I need him.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know, and better yet, the thing about it is, I want him. You know, there's a difference. You need somebody, but I want my husband. I want to be in his presence. We want to be friends. And then when people have not had healthy relationships, and we both had not. So when you see those two people together, there's always that little worm that's trying to come in there. and say, well, she doesn't want him, or he doesn't, Pastor Nick don't want her, or Pastor Rhonda doesn't want him. No, we're not going to let you come in between our home. And that is a good covering, Alicia. You do not allow anybody from the outside, because you cover your house. You cover him, and he covers you. Because people will try to throw little slide remarks in there and make it seem like you owe them. I don't owe you. He doesn't owe you. Our marriage and our covenant is with each other and God.
Yep.
The Bible says, owe no man nothing but to love them. Oh, y'all ain't gonna hit your share button on that.
Yeah, they don't fell out there.
So,
amen.
Okay. And let's see. You don't need, there was something. How do you wait? How do you wait? Come on, hit y'all share button, because I want women to know. And Pastor, you can talk to them about the men. How do you wait on God? If you are busy about God's business, you don't even know that you're waiting, because you're in preparation. Sure. There is a difference in waiting and preparing. Esther prepared herself. When you're talking about a mate, you're not just sitting in the corner like a hound waiting on him. Esther was in preparation. She was going through changes because she was filthy. There were times my life was filthy, and I went through a preparation stage that prepared me for my husband, to clean me for my husband. And even my husband, men go through the same preparation stage. Yeah. But if you don't go through the preparation stage, then he'll come, but you're not qualified because you didn't prepare. All you did was wait. You know, you wait on the Lord. You prepare for your husband, and he prepares for his wife. Yeah,
I think that was the best way to put it. You know, how do you, and in terms of waiting, is what are you doing in the wait? You know, there is a strategic way to wait. You know, waiting is not just sitting doing nothing. Waiting is being purged in the process. Waiting is being delivered. Waiting is being healed. Waiting is, you know, what are you doing in the meantime? How much are you seeking God for yourself? You know, how much are you allowing God to do things in your life? You know, so there's a certain way to wait, you know, and if we take advantage of it when that person does come along, it'll really work out, and you won't find yourself working back to work forward. You'll find yourself working forward. In many relationships, people are trying to work backwards and then work forward. You're in a new relationship trying to fix the old problems in this new relationship, and then once you've done that, successfully move forward. No, it's not about that. When my wife and I said I do, we started from that day and we moved forward. And it's as simple as that. And anything that we come against or come across, then we deal with it, we confront it, we address it, and we keep moving. So, but, you know, humility is important, but definitely humor, like my wife said, and laughter, I think that's very imperative. And it's important in any relationship to kind of keep things. My wife is a more bubbly one. She's a more lively one. I always tell her that anytime that she leaves and goes to different, you know, meetings and speaking engagements and things like that, the house is not the same. You know, the house is very quiet. It's me and the two girls here, and it's just quiet. There's nothing being said, no noise, no nothing, no laughter, no talking. And it really makes me appreciate or even realize, you know, what she brings to the house. So, yeah. When it's time to let go.
Girl, let me tell you, when it starts to drain you, when it starts to keep you up at night, when you've done all that you know that you can do, when you know that you deserve better, when you know that God can't, this is not God's best for me. When you know that this is not God's best, let it go. Because God can do So many things. And if God, I preached on Sunday and I said, God does not let you shop from the goodwill because the blood was too precious. And he said, I prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemy. So if God lets you sit at the table, why are you going to be up underneath something that is toxic, something that is not going to edify and build you up? Honey, be built up, be strong, and say, I think we as women, and I can say myself, I wanted somebody. Men are not as desperate as we are, and they can always detect. My husband said, a desperate woman. Even when you go into the club, you know who you're going to pull in 5 minutes because there's a desperation. She looking and she's smiling and all that. No, boo, you chased me. I'm not hungry like that. So if I know my worth, I know when I can let you go. This is. I told you that this is not just Pastor Rhonda, and no, this is Nick and Rhonda. We are talking from experience and talking from the places that we've been, holding on to things that did not mean us no good. You know why we hold on to them people? Because we don't think we are good enough. And I'll let Pastor speak to that.
Yeah, well, from a man's perspective, I mean, I think we kind of master the art of illusion, making a thing appear something that is not. So you think that a man ain't going through, when in actuality he is. He just has a different way of putting on. Men have a way of knowing how to separate and to cut off emotion from other things. But even as it pertains to a man, you have to know, and most men know. When to cut it off. You know what I'm saying? You know when to just to keep on moving. And I think it starts with knowing your value. You have to know what you're worth. What you're worth to yourself. When you know that, then you know what you will and what you won't take. And it's really just simple as that. Many times we've been too much trying to compromise for people. And even in just that moment, you compromise for a person that's not you. That's time you can never get back. That's a part of you that you may never get back. So I think it's better, and it's more important, just go ahead and just cut them off and sever and keep on moving. It ain't gonna hurt nothing, but it'll hinder you. So yeah. I got the gift of goodbye. I do.
Yeah. It's hard.
No, not for me.
I know.
I be wanting to let folk go.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
He's good at letting people go, but I'm that loving one, and I'll give you 110 chances. Mm-hmm. But when it comes, it's over. How do you deal with an emotionally unavailable person? You can't do anything with it. No. It takes God to deal with a person that is emotionally unavailable, because there is a deeper root, and I have to be whole enough, and I can't fix you. The problem is with us women, and sometimes even with men, when we want something, we want to fix them. Mm-hmm. You don't even try. Sometimes you got, if you're not available, I had to put you in the hands of Almighty God, who is the manufacturer of you. But I'm not going to spend time trying to fix you. And then by the time I fix you for somebody else, I'm all broke down, mentally crazy, and halfway in the grave.
That's good.
Because you get sick. It's a sickening thing when a person is so unavailable and you keep trying to give yourself to them. It hurts, and it does something to make you feel rejection and low self-esteem and not good enough.
That's good.
All right.
If you buy an entertainment center from Walmart and realize the speakers ain't there, and that's an important part of the entertainment center, you take it back. Same thing you do with people. You take them back to the creator.
Yeah, let me drop you off where I found.
Take that defect product back to the Lord and let Him deal with that. That ain't your issue.
Okay. Any more questions? We've been on here an hour?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? I pray that you guys enjoyed us tonight, because
next time we had that stand, because this is
we're gonna have a stand. Ebony gonna get us a stand. So we pray that we're helping you. Don't make excuses for him and her. what you need, you got to tell them what you need. Sometimes I just get along and it's not, say what you need in a relationship. And if they cannot, and if they are not willing to give you what you need, then is that the person? Because if you're giving them what they need, then you're going to always be at a deficit because they're getting everything they need in a relationship and you are not. So that's very important. If I can leave anybody with that, then, don't let people seduce you with charm. But what you need, don't let them tell you that you need ice cream when you know that you need attention or affection. All right, we are the Travitts. Y'all need to know what's going on in our house. We are hilarious. One room to the other room, and I follow him around. Yeah. He follow me around.
Yeah.
And the dogs follow us around.
Yeah.
So we just want to share, no pretense, no anything. We just love God, love God's people. Everybody that's in that waiting stage, know that it's not waiting. You are in preparation. And if you are not in preparation and nothing happens and you're not preparing and making the necessary adjustments and you be single, don't blame God. And if you settled, don't blame God. What are you preparing?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. What you got to say, baby? I'm going to let you sign off.
Yeah, I guess I sign off saying the same thing. Don't be so focused on participating to where you
love it,
and see when I'm trying to say something good, you're gonna be that distraction. See, so I'm trying to say something, leave y'all with something good, and I got distracted. But I didn't do that when she was telling you all this good stuff about preparing. So she want to leave y'all with the word to deliver y'all soul, and then have me over there listening. Like I just tickled y'all ear the whole time. Okay. So you know what I'm gonna do?
All right, I'll be quiet. I'll quiet.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Okay, go ahead, say it.
I'm gonna cut the phone now.
Okay, go ahead. All right, say it.
Goodbye.
No.
So what do you want me to say?
Okay. Whatever you want to say. I distracted you.
Yeah, so
I rubbed that beard. I distracted him, y'all. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I can't get that back. The window of opportunity is closed. The anointing is lifted, and I can't help you no more.
All right.
Hope y'all enjoyed it.
We hope y'all enjoyed it. We like to have fun, and we're different people when we're not at church, so we just like to love and be loved and get at it and have a good time. So y'all have a blessed night.
Have a great night. Pray y'all was blessed by this. Whatever this is called. What is this called?
The Travitts Real Talk Straight Up No Chaser.
No, is it called what they call this? Live stream?
Oh, this is Facebook Live.
Facebook Live, okay.
Facebook Live.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us. Please hit your share button. Please share it because I know that people I think this is needed. You got every other kind of stuff that's talking about everything. So, thank you.
I would like to see more men come on too.
Invite the men.
Yeah, because you guys have a voice. Don't just let me be the only one speaking on your behalf, because I might say something you don't like. So at least you have an opportunity to speak up for from your perspective, your viewpoint. And the good thing about it is we'll listen and we won't judge you. So by all means, men, if you catch this after the fact, please, when we tune in and do this again, make sure you guys get on, because I would love to have your presence. So I'm personally asking all my men to come out next week, come out, tune in, log in, whatever it is that you do when it comes to Facebook. And if I be there, I pray you be there too.
Okay, Monday Night Live. Tell everybody we'll start advertising 9 o'clock, not 10 o'clock. We just overslept.
No, we was on Texas time.
We was on Texas time.
Yeah.
No, Texas time behind. So
that's the point. So we did it at 10 o'clock. If we on Texas time, then
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so next week, Monday, 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Georgia time. We'll see y'all same place. We love y'all to life. God bless you. And we're signing off. We are the
Travitts.
All right. Talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Monday Night Live.